It's that time again. John, are you ready? Man, it has been a while. I think this might be like a local record for the number of podcasts between the last time you were on and the current time that you were on, because we had Amanda and we had Matt, and usually it's just like every other week I have John on the podcast.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was going to be a third week, but then you were like, no, you're recording the podcast.
Too many things. There's too many things. I went to sleep at 9 o'clock in the morning, woke up at 4 in the afternoon. I can't do this anymore.
Poor baby.
No, come on. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Rage Select Podcast here on Rage Select. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Yep, and we are... I've kind of made a decision after last week's podcast that we're splitting the difference between, like, we're gonna try to keep this shit in an hour, but we're also gonna we're not gonna skip things just because of that. Like, I was looking over the news from last week, and there was just like a ton of stories about, oh, this thing has been moved, this thing's been delayed, this thing has a release date. Like, I don't want to report on any of that stuff anymore because it's just not really all that interesting. Yeah. But I tell you what I do find interesting.
What do you find interesting, sir?
That's Overwatch, John. I like Overwatch, even though I am currently not playing it.
Because you uninstalled it.
I did uninstall it. I had to. I was addicted. I was like a fiend. I was scratching my face. I was like, I was just maining Bastion the entire time. And
that's weird.
No, I would never do. I'm a good person, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not that guy. But last week we had a couple of teases for Overwatch.
Yes.
And I have to say I'm bummed out.
Yeah?
I'm bummed out, and I'll tell you why after we go over all this. So there were two things that caught people's attention. One was an interview, like a little fake interview over on Overwatch's website with a character called Effie Oladele, who is like a young girl who is like a robotics wizard who everybody's pretty sure is going to be the next character that we're going to see in Overwatch. And then that was basically put together with this giant screenshot of kind of like this looks like a like concept art footage of a new map. It takes place in Egypt with the Sphinx behind it, but there's this giant like spider robot in the middle of it, and I think that the people are currently saying that that they think that it's going to be that this young child builds robots, and that's going to be the new character.
Yeah, it's
in Overwatch.
Her controlling the robot.
Yeah, I'll tell you why this is. Like I don't have any problems with this character.
I think I know what you're going to say, and I'm going to let you say it.
Yep.
And then I'm going to tell you why you don't have to be worried.
Okay. All right.
Assuming I'm correct.
No. I don't think I have to be worried. It's just a little bit of an awe because I thought it was going to be Doomfist starring Terry Crews as the next character. I was really looking forward to reinstalling Overwatch because if there was any reason to reinstall Overwatch, it would be because Terry Crews' Doomfist was the new playable character in Overwatch. Because that just sounds amazing.
Can I tell you why you shouldn't be disappointed by that?
Sure.
Sombra and Anna.
Okay.
Sombra was hinted at for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Anna came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Anna came out before Sombra did. And Sombra was being teased long before... so the fact that there are now two characters that it could be, this young kid controlling a robot spider remotely, or Doomfist, we're probably going to get both of them.
Yeah, probably. Or wait a minute, what if the young kid is voiced by Terry Crews? What if Effie O'Donnell or whatever her name is? Oh wait, what if the spider is voiced by Terry Crews? It's like a cute little kid, and then she has this Doom spider that's voiced by Terry Crews. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
All I know is I want to hear bounce back and forth dialogue between Soldier 76 and Terry Crews. That's all I've really ever wanted in my lifetime.
All right.
And I feel like it may happen at some point.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's good to see. Again, I like to keep harping on this topic. And this week, I mean, like in the last few weeks' podcast, there's been something that's been interesting to talk about that's got interesting implications, like the Steam thing or whatever. This week, we're probably going to be going a little bit lighter over just a couple of things. But one thing that I do want to keep pointing out is that I really admire Blizzard's dedication to Overwatch. Yeah. I really do. I mean, it's been almost a year since it's been what,
Dude,
9
they're
months?
still supporting Diablo 3.
Yeah, I know, but like the thing is that with Diablo 3, they were doing different things. They were adding in like these, the seasons and do difficulties and stuff like that. And that's all well and good. But like they weren't adding, like it's not like if Diablo 3 was adding characters the way that Overwatch is adding characters, there would be 6 new at this point there would be like 11 new classes in Diablo.
No, I know. I'm just saying that they support their shit.
I know. It's nice.
I get what you're saying.
You understand what I'm saying. This game, especially in an online shooter that has a lot of like balance issues and like trying to like they did a whole thing with changing Bastion last week on the PTR, which I have to appreciate. They added the new abilities for Sombra. Like there are plenty of companies out there, including, and I'm not afraid to say, I'm a little afraid to say this, but because I know there are people who are fans, but Bungie and EA and Activision and the people who are like the big juggernauts in the online multiplayer community, I'll talk to people who are like, oh yeah, this thing in Battlefield was broken when the game came out and they never fixed it. Or like or take Call of Duty and like, yeah, they'll give you some map packs, but like Call of Duty doesn't add for
as soon
free.
As the next game comes out, it's done.
It's done, yeah. And so I think that's what I like so much about the way that Overwatch has been rolling is that Blizzard, it's like most of these, it seems like they polish them as much as they possibly can. They put them out. If there's some glaring issues, they'll do hot fixes for them. They add a few maps, and then fuck it, you're done. We're on to the next season, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with Overwatch, it's like they've been continually like the Overwatch as it is now is better than Overwatch when it launched. Like it's got more modes, it's got more characters, and all of it's been free. And every other fucking developer out there would charge you for new characters, would charge you for new maps.
Essentially, what I think we're trying to say is, while yes, this is something that is a breath of fresh air in the industry overall, it's not really surprising coming from Blizzard.
No, it's not. I mean, it's the same way that CD Projekt Red supports the hell out of their stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to call that out because
it's rare as in the grand scheme of things.
Unfortunately, in the day and age that we live, it's more. We more often see developers that put out a thing and there's a problem with it or whatever, and then they're just like, fuck it, we're done. We're moving on to the next thing. And I really appreciate that they've been doing this, which is all good praise to balance out the fact that I'm not going to spend too much time on this. And John, I don't even know if you saw this, but this is off of a NeoGAF thread that I was reading that apparently somebody threw up a post on Reddit that was just like a woman who plays Overwatch talking about the just mountains of garbage that she gets online just for playing a game, just for playing Overwatch. And by God, this is not a new problem. I'm not, I don't want to sound like I'm coming out like, hey, everybody, did you know that when women are on voice comms that people ask them to show them their tits and they get all shitty with them and whatever?
Them to get back in the kitchen,
right?
Make them a sandwich, or
just garbage.
Girls shouldn't play video games,
right?
The stupid stuff. Yeah,
what I would like to do though is because so I want to be clear about why I'm bringing this up. Okay.
Yes.
I know that this shit happens all the time. Fat ugly slutty's been around, or fat ugly whatever, that one where it's just women, like it was just during the Xbox 360, women just posting screenshots of the unsolicited messages that they get on the Xbox 360 from people, and it was just fucking horrible.
Yeah.
I know I'm not, and I know that the people that listen to Rage Select, if you're a person who already does this, chances are I'm not going to change your mind. And if you're not a person who does this, I'm not looking to just stoke your fire and be like, yeah, isn't this crappy? We all know it's crappy. What I'd like to do is take the first thing that I said and add it to this story and say, I'd like to see a company that is as savvy with the things that they do as Blizzard try to do something to not fix this problem, but to make it a problem that is avoidable if you want to. And I've always been an advocate, and I talk to people about this when you hear all this stuff online about somebody writes some lady writes something on Twitter that people don't like, and then the internet, and you got to put up with all this bullshit. I really just don't understand why there isn't an option to be like, I don't want to hear voice comms or get messages from people who are not on my friends list, like to say, I do not want unsolicited communication from the fucking randos out there on the internet. And that if I think that should be an option for multiplayer games, especially when it comes to voice comms, because that there's the thing where there's some shitbag with his mic turned on and there's like a kid screaming in the background and fucking he's just saying something stupid about mom, or some bullshit, right? Yeah. But you have to find out that person's a jerk and then mute them. I guess what I'm asking for is I wish that there was a way that you could like preemptively mute, and I think that may be a thing that even has to be worked out with like Microsoft and Sony and companies individually, because I think that there should be an option to basically say, if I click this checkbox, if you're not on my friends list, you cannot send me a message, because I mean, I don't know. Why isn't that an option? Like, I figured it's not the best solution, but it is a solution as opposed to getting mountains of garbage. Which folks, if you're interested, go read this Reddit thread and you'll, it's there. I mean, we had a story a couple weeks ago about some guy who was just getting harassed because he liked to play Widowmaker on competitive, and people were like, fuck you. I saw a great video where it was like this guy that was playing as Sombra, that was maining as Sombra, and the video started with like just voice transmissions telling him to get the fuck off of Sombra, people sending little chat messages saying like fuck you, people reporting him for daring to use Sombra in a multiplayer match, and then it was like a montage of him just getting play of the game, like there's a Reinhardt using Sombra, hack, his shield's down, boom, we got that point, like using Sombra in a way that was winning games and competitive. And I don't know, I guess I just wish that there was that Blizzard would apply that big old brain to trying to get some of this internet shittiness at least in a place where you can compartmentalize it without having to experience it. I don't know. Do you have any opinions on this? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's shitty and people shouldn't do it.
Right,
but the shitbags out there who want to like, oh, girls on the mic, or oh, girls in gaming, I'm gonna like send them dick pics and shit. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You are the problem. You make us all look bad. But it's deplorable, but it's also kind of a hard thing to, especially in a game that's competitive like Overwatch. That's a hard thing to come at, because you're like, oh, well, I want to set a setting that says turn off voice comms at all times. But the thing is, if you're playing Overwatch competitively, you have to be able to talk to your teammates. And if you're doing it in a way that you're not playing with a team, but you're playing with like in the competitive mode, but not with, like the actual like season competitive mode.
Sure.
You have to communicate.
Yeah.
And, so it's kind of one of those things where it's a catch-22 thing. Like there's a lot more to it than just, oh, this needs to be this one setting and it'll fix all the problems.
Oh no, and I don't think that's the case. I guess the thing is that I feel like too often this particular conversation just comes like it comes all the way full circle to the starting point of, well, there's nothing you can do about that. And I wish that it was like, okay, you know what? If a player, like I've often advocated this for like Xbox Live and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that like if your account gets a certain number of flags for inappropriate blah blah blah, that you should start as muted and then be able to request to be able to communicate with people. I don't know. I feel like there's like, I just hate the idea that if because I know a bunch of ladies who play video games.
Yeah.
And I hate the idea
Amanda plays video games.
that they have to put up with this bullshit just because they're ladies. And
Yeah.
I don't like the excuse of just like, well, that's how it is.
And again, I don't want to come off as saying that that's what I'm saying, because I'm not.
And I'm not saying,
clearly not.
Yeah.
It's just the problem is a lot more. There's a lot more to it, is what I'm saying. Is it something that can be solved? Maybe, but a lot of the problem is less. It's less what the game allows you to do and doesn't allow you to do, and more of the whole John Gabriel fuckwad internet theory.
Right.
It's anonymity plus a vocal point means that people are going to say shitty things.
Right.
And unless you can fix that, which developers aren't going to be able to fix, some kid be on the internet going, I'm a kid, oh, you're a girl, you're a cunt, fuck you, ha 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 ha, I'm so funny, and blah 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 blah, and pussy, yeah, dick, penis, fart.
I'm definitely extracting that audio for use when you run for Senate, John.
Yeah,
That's all
no. I'm just saying, like, you can't stop that, because that's the kid. Now, you can silence them, you can mute them. The developers try to give you as much as they can to do it, and unfortunately, that doesn't always solve the problem. And it's not saying that it's, oh, what are you going to do? It's just, it's a lot more difficult of a problem to solve than just turn everything off.
Sure. I guess I just wish somebody would give it a shot. I agree.
I
know, I can know that even in things like League of Legends or one of those, that they had a thing where like if people reported you constantly, that you would get dumped. I mean, maybe that's the thing, that like you set up a reporting system where if you get reported enough times for being a real shitbag, then don't silence your mic, don't do anything, but you're going to get flagged into a server with nothing but shitbags. It's just going to be you and all the other shitbags together on one server.
And Blizzard has that too for World of Warcraft, for example.
Yeah.
But I mean, just like I said, it's kind of one of those things. I think for something like Overwatch, it's a little
Yeah, I can see that. You make a good point. Well, I tell you what. Let's move off of this depressing story.
Yes.
On to better stories. So, Mass Effect Andromeda. Apparently, there was a preview event that EA and BioWare had where they said that depending on whether you choose Dude Shep or Lady Shep,
or the writer or whatever the fuck the character is.
Yeah. I forgot. Sorry, they're all fucking Shepard.
They're writers.
That the story will actually be different. That you'll actually get a different story. Now, they didn't talk about how different or why
In what
different
way.
or in what way, but they said that there is probably going to be some story difference between the male and female options in the game, which I think is interesting. I mean, I'm really curious to know how different it is.
It couldn't be too different.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting if BioWare took that step. I feel like it's such a double-edged sword, right? Because if it's too different and like one is better than the other, then people are going to be upset regardless. But if it's too similar, then why even bother saying it as a feature? Because it's not actually anything that's all that different.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of like the fact that in the previous Mass Effect games that it was just like it just didn't really matter. There was nobody treated you differently whether you were Dude Shep or Lady Shep, except for the people that were hitting on you that you were trying to sleep with.
And even some of them didn't treat you differently.
Right. But I don't know. It would be nice. It would be interesting to have a reason to go back and, like, if the story is different enough, as you were saying, to have a reason to go back to play through the game if the story was significantly different between the two of them. I don't know. I don't know where I'd fall on that. Whether I feel like that's a good thing or it's a bad thing.
Yeah. I didn't ask you if you had this news item before we started recording, and it's a quick little thing that I want to bring up. It's in relation to Mass Effect.
Okay.
And Cards Against Humanity.
Okay.
Have you heard about this?
No.
So Cards Against Humanity has actually officially released a Mass Effect expansion.
Okay.
In which there's like for like $1, like free shipping, $1, you get like 14 Mass Effect themed Cards Against Humanity cards. Along with a Valentine's card or whatever of a bunch of characters making out and stuff like that.
Okay.
The website, which I think is the thing that's going to make you laugh about this.
Okay.
The website to go buy this is totallyfuckablealiens.com.
Nice. All right. Cards Against Humanity.
But yeah, no, and they basically said that once their inventory runs out, that it'll never be sold again. It's only $1. You can go to that website.
Do they have like examples of what that is? Is it like
they
an Asari's tentacles in my butt? Like, I mean, Cards Against Humanity is generally got some terrible cards.
Yeah,
so.
no. There was I think like one was a bigger Krogan dick or something like that.
Okay.
Like a.
Well, maybe
there was like the joke was this like so we originally had like 500 cards, but they were all terrible except for 14 of them, and also the Mass Effect writers kept submitting card ideas that were just about boning people, so we had to kind of mix it up for diversity.
Come on, Cards Against Humanity! I want to buy all 500 of those.
But I mean, I think all that was like joking. But yeah, no, it's. I thought it was really funny. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up real quick while we're talking here. Wish I'd thought about this because like I said, I'd meant to ask you about it beforehand.
Well, I tell you what. Why don't you keep looking that up, and we'll come back to it a little bit later because we have a bunch of other things to talk about first. And we actually have a smattering of Nintendo Switch news. The first being that apparently the whole GameCube Virtual Console thing is not going to be available on the Nintendo Switch
Sons
at launch.
Of bitches.
Yep. This is another one of those like... well, it'll come in the future later on, which... I feel like the reason that you were getting a Nintendo Switch because you were like, ooh, I want that new Nintendo console. It plays GameCube games. On the other hand, I'm a big fan of having a concrete release date for things as opposed to just quotey fingers in the future. Which I know is one of the things that you don't like, John, is the whole like launch window idea of oh, it'll be, the launch window, 8 months.
I would like my console to be fully released.
Yes.
And not you'll get the hardware, and this feature comes out 3 months later, and this feature will come out 4 months after that.
Yes.
And this other feature will come 6 months after that. It's one of the things that irritates me.
I agree. But I don't know. I mean, at this point, I feel like Nintendo is, and one of the problems when I bitch about the Switch, when I do my Switch bitching, is that by having this lack of stock, Nintendo is going to be able to draw out this period of they aren't going to have to deliver on anything for a while, because of the limited quantity of the Switch, they're going to be able to ride a hype train of people who just want the console long enough, further than they would if there were just a zillion of them and anybody could get one. And it's one of those things that, again, I don't really like, because it means that if everybody's so rabid about trying to get, it's kind of like iPhones, I feel like, did a lot of the same thing. We've seen this happen a number of different times, where if everybody's so hyped about just getting a thing, then we as a collective have no real power to hold a company's feet to the fire about, give me this thing, because everybody's so wrapped up in the cycle of just trying to get the thing that that they don't have to deliver. They don't have to deliver on the thing in a prompt manner. That they probably will eventually, but that they can do this quotey in the future stuff. In other Switch news, apparently Nintendo, I think this is a thing. I mean, I'm seeing a report on this, and I don't know. It's hard for me to remember when all this stuff came out. As I feel like some of this stuff would be just duh. But apparently, they've clarified that Nintendo is stepping into 10 years ago, and that you're going to have a Nintendo ID that your purchases are tied to, as opposed to individual consoles. And while that's good news, it's kind of like, hooray, you've caught up to everybody else. You've caught up to literally everybody, Nintendo. Thanks for not making me send my console to you if it breaks to get my games back, because you can't be bothered to make some kind of online ID.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently you're going to have one central Nintendo account that your purchases are tied to. I'm wondering, do you know a little bit more Nintendo than I do, whether this is going to filter back into the 3DS and the 3DS architecture? Because I feel like the Wii U is EOL, right? But
been one of the things that people have been confused on. I haven't even, because I'm not getting a Switch at launch, I haven't even really bothered looking into it, but I know that there was a lot of confusion about that.
Yeah.
Because especially once they got rid of Club Nintendo, and then they're now doing just the Nintendo account or whatever it is that is now. So there's the account you sign up for on the website, then your Wii U has an account, then your 3DS also has its own individual account. So right now there are 3 different accounts that you can have that are not tied together in any way, shape, or form. That apparently with the Switch you are going to be able to tie those together, or you may not be able to. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I haven't bothered to look into it because, like I said, I'm not getting a Switch at launch because I'm going to wait a little bit before I
find it amazing that it's taken them this long to do that. I mean, I feel like the Wii U would have been the place where they would have done that. There was all this DLC, and that would have been the place to roll, or that, or the new 3DS. New 3DS has a store, and it's incredibly popular, and there's all these games, and you can digitally download. I don't think I bought a physical 3DS game since I've had my new 3DS.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would have been a perfect place to institute something new along those lines. And finally, as far as Nintendo Switches go, there was a NeoGAF article that I was reading that talked about that the battery life seems like that's been one of the questions as far as the Switch goes, is how long it lasts on battery. And there's a bunch of them that were stolen or leaked out into the wild, or people are getting their review copies. So there's been some actual development on this. And this post on NeoGAF that links to an Ars Technica article is talking about playing Zelda on a full battery charge. They got about 3 hours before they had to recharge it, and that it actually does pretty well in sleep. They said that they lost 2% of their battery life in sleep after 8 hours.
Say Nintendo, especially with the 3DS, has been fucking baller when it comes to battery usage on sleep. Because I had my 3DS and I didn't use it for like 4 months, and it still had battery life. Like it was not, it was like I think like 12%. Like once when I tried to turn
it
it on,
been
like,
asleep for 4 months.
Yeah,
you got some kind of super 3DS. Every fucking time I pick that thing up, it's out of battery.
Oh man,
and it always needs a firmware update. It's always got to charge to 60% before it can do a firmware update. And fucking goddamn.
Yeah, no, Nintendo to me they know how to handle their fucking sleep mode. on their devices.
But yeah, I don't know. That's good. That's good news because
yes, it is.
I could see it going either way. If there was a report after the game came out, I was like, "Oh yeah, I played the Breath of the Wild and I got an hour before it went out, and then I had to go plug it back in." Like it would not be even. It would be a bit of a knock against the system, but it would not, to me at least, be surprising if we found out that the battery life was kind of garbage because sometimes the shit comes out in the first iteration. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we live in a world. We got our PS Pros, we got our Scorpios coming, we got our new 3DSs. We live in a world of hardware iteration where the first hardware is good but has a few problems that then the next hardware refresh is going to end up fixing. That, like, if you, honest to God, wanted to, I always think that it would be it'd be great if I could stay like 2 years behind video games and just be playing the stuff that came out 2 years ago and buy all the systems for super cheap when they're on sale and wait for all the hardware refreshes before buying a new one, instead of kind of keeping up there on the bleeding edge where, you end up with consoles that you want to trade in for other consoles. Anyway, did you find those cards?
Yes, I did.
All right.
It's only a few of them.
Okay.
Like one of the black cards says, coming from this spring from BioWare, Mass Effect blank. And one of the white cards that they have for it is totally fuckable aliens. The other is falling in actual love with the video game character is another title. Then they also have one that says, turns out the Reapers didn't want to destroy the galaxy, they just wanted blank. And the example card they gave with that was bone-shattering sex with a metal woman.
Okay.
So, like, there's only 14 cards. They only wanted to give a little bit of an example of the 14 cards, but also apparently it also comes with a this card thing. It looks like it's like a greeting card. That on the outside of it has a picture of them playing the Cards Against Humanity, and Tally's getting drunk, and someone's Thane is throwing up, and Rex is getting angry at Shep and Femshep and Garrus making out.
I searched for Cards Against Humanity because that first one is coming this fall from BioWare, Mass Effect, and I'm just like, I'm going to read some of the cards that are here. Mass Effect picking up girls at the abortion clinic. Mass Effect finding out democracy might not be a great idea. Oh, that would be great. Mass Effect Republicans.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's just 14 cards, and it's $1, and it comes with a greeting card. And on the inside of the greeting card, on one side of it is male shepherd, on the other side is Caden, and when you put them together, it looks like they're smooching.
Okay, fair enough.
They're making kissy faces.
All right. Well, we got a couple of trailers this week to get to. The first was the first Double Fine game that I've heard about in quite a while, called Ooblets, and this is
it's interesting looking,
pretty freaking adorable.
Yeah.
The description of it is that it's going to be Harvest Moon meets Pokemon with some Animal Crossing inside, where apparently you plant plants and then little crazy Pokemon looking guys sprout up, and then you take them around and you make them fight other things.
You make them fight other ooblets.
Yeah, like one of these looks like some kind of vegetable with like a monocle and a top hat, and there's like,
that is adorable.
They've got little so the whole art style is pretty cool. And if you're into, I feel like if you're into any of those three games, Pokemon, Harvest Moon, or Animal Crossing, you should probably go check this trailer out because it looks like a pretty adorable game. As you said, it looks like something that Amanda wants now.
Well, all you have to say, hey, Amanda, Double Fine is releasing a game called Ooblets to PC and Xbox One in 2018.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, I want it now.
Yeah. Why isn't it out now?
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems pretty cool. I often wonder why more developers haven't copied Pokemon's formula.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a thing that people like. What was that game that we played on Super Awesome Video Game Show that was like an MMO with Pokemon? that then got shut down. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes, something like Moon or something like that.
Yeah, it was. That was fine. I had no problem with that game. Kind of wish that it had kept going. Well, let's go from cute to violent as our old buddies over at Devolver Digital put out a new trailer for a game that's been in development for a while called Ruiner, which is just, I mean, I feel like the theme for our trailers this week is style, because all three of these are just fucking dripping with style.
Oh, yeah.
Ruiner is like, I don't know, kind of looks like Hotline Miami meets like a Blade Runner, but it's all 3D, and you got this guy with who's the guy like a 2.0 version of the mask that Wrench has in Watch Dogs 2, like just kind of rolling around in this like top down. It reminds me of like a cross between Hotline Miami and like Crusader No Remorse.
Yes, I can agree with that.
And yeah, it looks really awesome. I don't know. If you guys haven't already been converted by us saying the words Devolver Digital over and over again, do it. Check them out. They're awesome.
I mean, like Amanda with you saying Double Fine with me or you, it's like Devolver Digital's going to release a game. We're there.
Yeah.
You had us at Devolver.
Oh shit! I didn't even realize this. Last week there's going to be an expansion for Genital Jousting called Date Night. That's horrible. That's the worst. That penis just threw a bunch of sandwiches in that other penis's butthole.
And they got wiener dogs.
Okay, I can't watch this. I can't keep watching this. And finally, on the trailer trade, speaking of like super style, a Kickstarter is up this week for a game called Narita Boy. This is actually a really long trailer for trailers, especially for a Kickstarter game, and it also looks incredibly polished for a Kickstarter game.
Yeah.
This shit looks badass.
It looks like and I mentioned this before, and you mentioned that they even said that this was one of their inspirations was a game called Sword and Sorcery.
Sword
that
Sorcery
was released on tablets and I think Steam as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of reminds me of that, but a little bit more graphically intensive.
Yeah.
But mixed with Tron.
Yeah, but it's also got like all of this like kind of 80s nostalgia stuff of.
I like the fact that he has like a floppy board, like it's called a floppy board.
It's like a big floppy disk that he rides around,
like a skateboard or a hoverboard.
No, this looks great. I would highly recommend. I mean, like I don't do a lot of like Kickstarter. I don't do a lot of Kickstarter pimping on this show. I mean, I don't know, just mostly because I'm not as plugged in. There haven't been as many like really good looking Kickstarters recently for video games. I feel like they've gone all board gamey and shit. But these guys, I mean, like this trailer represents a fair amount of work. It looks like in what this game is going to be like. It's a bunch of different environments. It's like got a pretty kicking soundtrack. It looks like it's got some like action and animation stuff. It's doing pixel animation right, which I always appreciate. It's cheating a little bit, but not horribly. But it looks good. And the other thing is that their Kickstarter, it is got 30 days to go. So it just started as of us recording this. And their goal is $126,000.
Yeah.
Which is Kickstarter, nothing. They're already up to about 48,000. But I feel like this is one of those ones that I would really like to see because everything that I'm seeing about it, from the weird cover art all the way to this gameplay video and the audio and all that stuff, just sounds and looks fucking amazing.
I agree.
Check it out. I feel like this week has a lot of like things that are relevant to you and I's interest, John, because there was an interview last week where they were talking with the who was it? The head of Insomniac, Ted Price. Asking, hey, where's Sunset Overdrive 2? And Ted Price was like, that's all Microsoft. Like, we can't just make that. Microsoft has to approve that. So I guess I'd like to take my meager podium here on the internet to go, Microsoft, you've got no games. Make Sunset Overdrive 2. John and I will play it. The two of us will play it at least.
I fucking loved Sunset Overdrive.
Yeah, me too. I felt like it got a little repetitive as time went on, but I liked the bright colors. I liked the kind of concept of it. I liked the kind of loony zaniness. But yeah, there's also a separate quote that says, we are passionate about that franchise and we own it, so you may see more Sunset in the future from us. No promises and no timeline to speak of, but it's something that represents our willingness to create unexpected experiences. So
wait, that contradicts the first statement.
I think that they own the franchise, but that Microsoft probably has publishing rights for it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. All it said is when they were asked that they asked Ted Price why there hasn't been any movement, and he replied, "You'd have to ask Microsoft."
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. All I know is that you and I have already had about 1 billion conversations about how Microsoft needs to fucking get some fucking games in the pipe, some studio exclusive, Microsoft exclusive stuff.
Yeah, kind of hoping that this year's E3 is gonna like just come out with a bunch of surprises.
I hope so too. I mean, I hope they get their ass in gear because they need to. They need to get going because I'm just like you and I have sat down trying to think. Sea of Thieves, Crackdown, what else?
Probably a new
What am I
Halo.
forgetting?
Probably a new Gears of War.
Do you think that they'll announce a new
another
Gears of
Forza?
War? Yeah, Forza, probably a new, like, not Horizon, but regular Forza. But do you think that they'll put out another? Do you think they'll announce another Gears of War?
They might.
Like, do you think Gears of War is something that they want to be a yearly franchise?
I mean, if not, they'll announce that it's being worked on.
That's interesting. What would you think about something in the Gears universe that was something different? Do you think that, like...
Well, I think they need, because the Gears of War 4 had a kind of a non-ending that was basically like, tune into the next game.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, maybe so.
There's going to be a Gears of War 5 and a Gears of War 6.
All right.
We know it because they've said that this is the start of a new trilogy.
Fair enough.
So...
and we got a couple more stories here that we're going to be done. So do you remember there was a game that came out for PSVR called Here They Lie that was like this weird kind of black and white psychological strangeness. There's like deer-headed people and like
no.
this story.
I'm interested because I want to get a PSVR soon. So
yeah, it's called Here They Lie. It got like mediocre reviews. But what was interesting about it, or what's interesting about this story, is that apparently there's an update that's going to be coming out for it that will make it playable not with VR. Because it used to be VR exclusive, and now I feel like their sales probably didn't do well enough. But it's still... I mean, I thought it looked like an interesting game. It's just I couldn't play it. I didn't have a VR headset.
Yeah.
That they're putting out a thing. And I think that this is actually an interesting... I think that this as a concept bodes very well for VR because it means that you need to be making... Like, if there's a trend that happens where you have games that are playable either in VR or not in VR, because right now, like, I can't play Psychonauts Rhombus of Ruin, right?
Yeah.
It's a VR exclusive. I can't play the Batman thing, and probably wouldn't be any good if I did play it. But I like the idea of developers creating experiences that work both in VR and out of VR so that, because I think that there should be much more transparency. I don't like a line of demarcation between these are VR games because regular games don't work in VR, and these are non-VR games because these games don't work in VR. Because I feel like they should be able to go back and forth with just a little bit of.
Well, I mean, that's
around.
why when we talked about the PSVR coming out, and that's why I said that I think that regardless if Resident Evil was a good game or not, which we know it now is a good game,
I liked it.
that it's probably going to be the thing that they use to sell consoles or PlayStation VR consoles or devices because the game can be played without the PlayStation VR and with the PlayStation VR.
Yep.
And so that's one of those things that people, they're going to be like, well, I've already got this game. Well, let me get a PlayStation VR, and I've already got a game.
Yep. Absolutely. So I was trying to think. I mean, like, I don't know why it's like... There's a thing that I don't entirely understand and about VR is that, okay, so VR works best the first person perspective, but it doesn't have to be a first person perspective.
No, other companies are making games that are not first person perspective.
I mean, we played that game on my Oculus called Blaze Rush. That's like a little like kart racer thing. Yeah. That was great in VR, and all it was like you were just towering. You were just like a big giant towering over the environment. I thought that like Diablo would work great for VR. I played some third-person games. It's a little weird, but I played some third-person games where it's basically like you are a giant hovering behind. Because I feel like, again, I keep trying to make this point, and I feel like it keeps sailing over a lot of people's heads. VR is also 3D. So if you're playing Mass Effect, but you're just like a big invisible giant hanging around behind Shepard, I don't feel like you need to make like or writer that you need to make like the Mass Effect VR experience. It's like no. Just let me play it, but use my PlayStation VR as the monitor instead of my TV, because it's in 3D. It's much more immersive. You've got it all around your head. It's like you're inside of this world and you're kind of looking down on a little avatar, a little third-person avatar that runs in front of you. Like, it doesn't always have to be a one-to-one, like, oh, I've got two wands that represent my hands and I'm standing up in my room and walking around like this is reality. It doesn't have to be like that, because it's incredibly immersive even when it's not like that.
Yeah.
And that video game players are adept at translating like abstract control concepts and points of view into a seamless gameplay experience. Like Diablo isn't a bad game because I'm looking down on the character that I'm playing. Like, just because I'm a person and I look out through my eyes doesn't mean that I can't play a game where I'm looking down on a little guy running around in the world hacking stuff up. That's fine. So I don't understand. There's a part of me that wants to make this argument that if you just let me play, I don't know, Sniper Elite 4 in VR, that'd be great. I'd love to be able to do that. Or Berserk, or any of the stuff that's over here. For Honor, right? Like, is there any reason why For Honor can't work as a VR game where, like, I'm sitting in my chair and by default when I'm looking forward, I'm looking at the back of my character, but then even if you're just tilting your head slightly to kind of look around, your character's still in 3D, the world's still in 3D, and you're still fully immersed in this 3D world. So even if it's not a seamless VR experience, it still adds a lot to the game. Like, I remember reading somebody online on a Steam review of some of a game where you could play it sitting in your chair, and they were like, well, the only way that I would want to play a VR game if I was sitting in a chair was if the main character was in a wheelchair, because it really just takes me out of it if I'm sitting down but the character is standing up walking around, like blah 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 blah. And I think that's horseshit. I think that having that, like, trying to say that you have to have a one-to-one between my body and the avatar in the game is crap, because we don't do that as video gamers. We got Pac-Man and fucking, you know, like, I don't know.
I think it's more of a because of the way it's tricking your brain.
Yeah.
That there's a thing with the movement, and it can make some people sick, and you know it. Because I remember with your Oculus, when there was that one where you had that was the roller coaster, or you're not moving, but the thing is moving. Mind you, it isn't a first person, but it's just the camera moving without you moving is really disorienting. Because your brain is like, everything is telling, your eyes are telling you, you're telling your brain that everything, all the senses from your eyeballs are telling your brain, I am moving.
Sure. And
your brain is like, but everything else is telling me I'm sitting still.
Sure.
It's the seasick effect.
But you know what? Like, I feel like that was similar. Like, there are people who can't play first-person shooters because it makes them sick. Like, there are people who are non-gamers.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I think that there probably is a little bit more to it, and I think they probably haven't figured it out yet.
I just feel like some of that stuff is like, oh, man, well, we tried that, but one of the people who was playing it got sick, and it's like, all right, well, fuck that person. They can not play Mass Effect with their VR headset on. Everybody else who doesn't get sick can, or you do it a little bit at a time until you get used to it. I mean, it was, disorienting the first time that I put the VR headset on and started messing around with it. I guess it's just like, I want to push the envelope. I want as many games that I can play in VR as humanly possible, and I'm tired of the excuse for that not being the case being, well, we have to develop it specifically for VR. I don't believe that's the case.
I will say, I did like Microsoft's idea with the Windows 10 Oculus thing, which I think you hated it when it was brought up.
Oh, the virtual room,
where you're in a room and it's a huge TV, and you're essentially you're first personing yourself in a room with a giant TV, which I'm okay with that.
I'll be honest, I'm okay with that too. Like, I think it would be an amazing idea, because here's the thing: when I play video games, I like to get close to the TV. I think it'd be amazing if you could just use the PSVR to fully navigate and just do everything. Like, if the game doesn't have VR support, do what you're talking about. Allow me to have a screen, because towards the end of my DK2 life, I was mostly just using it to watch movies. As I would download side-by-side 3D movies, and then there was a movie app that would let me basically just make a screen that was as big as I wanted it, and then I could watch everything in 3D. I think that that's fine if the game has 3D support, or if there's some amount of 3D support, or even no 3D support, just being able to put on a headset. Like if I could take my PlayStation 4 and just set it next to my couch, and then just sit on my couch and put this headset on and just stare off into space fucking playing a game, even that's cool. Like, I just don't like that. It seems like there are a lot of different ways to use VR, and that the game industry right now is super hung up on one. And one is you got a wand in each hand, and it's some kind of one-to-one. These are my hands. This is my body. When I'm like, fuck it, dude. Let me just play fucking For Honor. Like, let me play whatever game I want to in VR, and damn the consequences. You know, it doesn't take that much to change.
I get you.
Anyway, we're now 15 minutes over time, so we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to answer some questions, so stick around and we'll be back. And we are back, and it's time for questions. Mail@ragechat.com is the email address to send your questions. But wait, before questions, let's do a really half-assed review, John.
Half-assed reviews. I think that's already a thing.
Hey, everybody.
That's already been copyrighted. That's already like a YouTube show.
We're quarter-ass reviews.
There you go.
How much ass? What's the minimum amount of ass? The minimum amount of ass. So, like, very small amount of ass reviews. Because John and I played, like, different parts of For Honor a little bit over the last week, and I don't feel like I'm in a place where I can make, like, a full value assessment for it, but I feel like we can at least talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, first off, I'm really interested to hear, why don't you talk a little bit about the single player, because I really didn't play the single player.
I played the whole single player. It's a glorified
how long
tutorial.
was it?
It's about 6 missions per faction, of differing lengths. Like the missions are of differing lengths.
Okay.
So I mean, you could probably beat it in like a couple days.
Would you say altogether, like, are you talking about like 5 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours?
Probably 8 hours.
So okay,
most.
all right.
It's a decent length. It's a half-ass story mode.
Yeah.
Like, it really feels like they went, oh shit, we need to come up with a single-player story mode.
Yeah.
Having said that, there are some really good moments in the game, in the story mode. Like, I think there are some really good, like, there's one sequence for the barbarians where you're riding a horse, and, like, there's barbarians coming. It's basically Road Rash,
okay.
but on horses.
Nice.
With Vikings, and like, and it's really well done. Really, probably one of my more favorite levels in the barbarian or the Viking section.
Okay.
But I mean, here's the thing. None of the main characters that you play, like at the beginning of each story, of each factions section of the story,
okay,
you choose your character, and by that it gives you like 6 different variations on the character. Like the warden at the very beginning, like you saw, there's 3 variations, 1 male and 1 female of those 3 variations of that it provides you that you can choose from. Just look, so you can just
your look.
And
the
look, and it doesn't.
basically.
Yeah, but other than that, it doesn't do anything.
Right.
And it's just 1 male voice and 1 female voice. They have that for each of those. Like, they choose one, and that's the character you'll play more. That is the character that for that section of the story is the important character.
Okay.
And then, like, there's a couple of missions where you may play as another character class from that faction. And it's all designed about, the Apolloda is her name, who is like the
I love war lady, right?
Yeah.
With the black armor, the little slats in it and everything.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, she is the main villain, and they tell you right from the get-go that she is the fucking villain of the game.
Right.
She's kind of narrating parts of the game, which is really weird given the big reveal at the end about what... Because the other thing I was confused about is that the entire game is 14 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, like the as it's going, like the timeline is saying like X amount of years ago. And then when it gets to present day, she's not around. So the parts that are commentary by her don't, from an aesthetic standpoint, don't make sense.
Okay.
With that prologue ending, or epilogue, not prologue, epilogue. But I thought that the levels are interesting. They do have like collectible things in the levels to kind of keep you wanting to play it multiple times.
Right.
So like there's breakable items, which is basically just an arrangement of pots that you can break, and
good job, Ubisoft.
Yeah, and then there's also like viewable collectibles where basically there's these little icons that when you see them, you click the L button, the LR button, or the L1 button, or whatever you want to call it, and then it does like a little either Hippolyta or the character you're playing as basically talks about what you're looking at, and maybe gives a little bit of backstory and context to the world.
Okay,
which I thought was very interesting and kind of interesting to get all those to get kind of the full story. The biggest problem I have is that those viewables, because it's a tiny little like dot that is white that glows, and you're in daylight for a lot of the game, and a lot of them are in the sky.
Okay,
you can't see them.
Yeah.
So you just miss them.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of missions where I'm like, I actually had to go look up online where they were. And also sometimes like you have to be very careful about when you start looking for those, because if you take a step too far in one direction, you'll trigger a cutscene and it'll move on to the point where you can't get that.
It'll block off the part of the level where that thing was. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a little bit of annoyance there, but I do like the idea behind it. But I also feel like because of the fact that you're playing these generic characters, like the character class of the Warden,
right? He
doesn't have a name in the story. He's just called Warden.
Yeah.
Like there is another character who is a different character class who actually does have a name that you get to play as in the Knights. Same with in the Barbarians, and same with the the Samurai. But those are the only characters that get named, and you only get to play them once. But you're primarily playing either the Warden, whatever the lead Viking class is.
It was like Berserker or whatever.
And then the Orochi.
Yeah. So I don't know. It sounds like, okay.
But it's the fact that you don't ever really see their faces.
Right.
And you don't have a name to give them.
Right.
So it's very much like, why the fuck do I care about these characters?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask you about is I feel like this is a litmus test that's going to tell plenty of people what they want to know about For Honor. If that was the only thing that For Honor had, that single player story, what would your opinion of the game be? If there was no
shitty ass story, like basically, I would put it on the line of, well, there's some interesting ideas here, but I really wish they'd flesh this out more.
Okay,
but the controls are solid,
like the exact opposite of, or not exact opposite, but kind of the opposite in a story way of Watch Dogs 2. Like more of a,
you know what? Actually, the storyline reminds me of
what's that?
The Order 1886.
Oh, good.
There's a lot of really good ideas in the story. But they're not implemented well, or they're not expanded on in a way that actually matters.
Okay.
Like the other thing, other than the fact that you have these generic characters that don't have names that just refer to as the Warden, the warrior, and the fucking the champion. Like that's actually what they're referred to in the game. They're not actually ever referred to by a name. In addition to that, you don't really get much about their backstory. The Warden is just he's a knight. And it turns out he was really good at being a knight, so he is fucking the guy you're following. The Viking lady or the Viking character, they were a Viking person who came down and saw their people in fighting each other and went, "Hey, this needs to stop." Yeah, that's the extent. The only one that actually has any interesting of a backstory is the Samurai, which is like, oh, he was a former champion of the Emperor. The Emperor died, and he was put in prison, and now the rest of the group of Samurai have broken him out of prison because they feel like he's the only one who can fix the shit that's going on, and you play as him fixing the shit that's going on.
Right. So I mean, it just basically sounds like apart from the actual, and I guess one of the other things that I kind of had a problem with when we were playing it on the dojo was that it seemed like we played through like 4 different missions of the storyline, and it also felt like the AI enemies in the storyline were super weak as opposed to the AI that you play in the multiplayer, because like we played 2 Sunday streams of For Honor, and the AI champions in the multiplayer, they weren't fucking around. Like there were 2 of them. I was like, oh fuck, there are 2 of them. I'm probably gonna die because I'm not super good at this game. Whereas when I was playing the single player, it was like you could kind of just spam them, and kind of.
It also depended on the level of difficulty you did for the.
But somebody pointed that out. Like somebody in the comment section for our For Honor dojos were like, oh, here's Jeff bitching about the difficulty when he's playing on normal. I guess the thing is that there's only 2 solutions that I can find. Is that because I already played the multiplayer and I was already attuned to the difficulty level of the multiplayer, that you have to play the single player on hard if you want to even have a little bit of challenge, because the multiplayer already has the AI on hard. But like I feel like that's bad. That's bad tuning.
Yeah. Also, if I'm not mistaken, because when I played the single player, it said that it unlocked, like beating the single player unlocked one of the multiplayer modes.
Mm-hmm.
Like so from what I understand, there is a complete function of the multiplayer that's not there unless you beat the single player.
That's kind of shitty.
Which is that thing where you basically can send troops and like the raids and stuff like that, where you manage on the map.
No, you can do that.
Oh, you can,
I didn't finish the multiplayer mode.
Because when I beat the single player, it was like, oh, hey, now you have the ability to do this.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know, because I didn't finish it, because I was mostly playing the multiplayer. And then I guess, I mean, briefly, for any of those folks who haven't played For Honor yet, it's a real interesting combat system. Like, there are 2 types of enemies in For Honor. There's, like, garbage, which does nothing, and then there are, like, hero enemies. And the way that the game works is you kind of have this system where you can switch your stance between upper, left, and right. And that, okay, so if I've got my stance to the right and you attack from the right, then it auto blocks. But if I attack you from the right, it also auto blocks. But then if while you're attacking, you hit a certain button, you can counter. So it's a very much kind of like a anticipation of what the other person's going to do. But then there's also things like stunning. And
I think the combat system is great.
And rolling. Yeah, I think so too. It's one of the most original, kind of third-person melee systems that I've played in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of thought went into it, and I think that it really does work, especially when you're playing PvP, because it becomes this weird, like, almost chess match at a certain point, because you're like, okay, well, he's blocking up, and I'm going to try to, like, swoop to the right fast because it's going to give him the opportunity to do that. But does he have a faster character where he's going to try to interrupt me with a top strike before I can get that right-hand strike in? Like, should I try to hit the stun on him, which if I'm not close enough won't connect, and it also gives him an opening to do a thing? Do I try to dump him in the pit? And the answer is yes, always dump him in the pit. Always, always, always kick them in the pit, because that's the best thing in all of For Honor.
Yeah.
But
I actually like cheese like a lot of bosses in the storyline. Like they're like, this boss is like the ultimate badass, and I'm like, oh, he's right next to a ledge. Whoop. And then like it does this whole thing, this cutscene where the guy wasn't like knocked over.
Oh, where he's like,
yeah. Like, and it's like clear that this was supposed to be like a really hard battle.
Yeah.
And I just like knocked him off a ledge.
So I mean, it sounds like from everything you're saying that the story mode is like sub-mediocre, that it's passable, but if that was all there was, this would be a bad game, or it would not be worth $60.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, the multiplayer and the controls are so solid that it makes it worth it.
I really enjoy the multiplayer for Honor, and that's surprising to me because I'm not a person who plays that much multiplayer. But you can play versus bots, you can play versus other people. There's at least a few different matches. There's a death match, there's a duel mode, and there's Dominion, where you're trying to kind of push points forwards and backwards and hold on to them. I think playing against the AI, I think this is one of the few games that I've ever played where playing against the AI is great, because it really does teach you the things that you're going to need to know to play against other people, because the AI is fucking super aggressive. They're not idiots. And, a one-on-one fight with an AI is not always a sure thing, at least for me. Hey, you out there in video game land, you're super good at video games, whatever. But, like, I would, if the multiplayer was its own component that was free to play, I would certainly play it. I feel like it's totally worth it. And I feel like the multiplayer combined with the single player is good, would probably at the end of the day be worth, I don't know, like not maybe full $60, but like $40 on sale in 6 months. The only other thing to mention, though, is that there's one thing that neither you nor I are really talking about, and that is that apparently the PC version has hella connectivity problems.
Oh, yeah,
like
I've heard
just
that.
supreme connectivity problems where if you were trying to play PvP, you'll get disconnected. We even saw when we were playing on Sunday that even on the console, we're playing on the PS4, or I'm playing on the PS4, that I was in multiplayer games where one person would drop from that game and then the game would struggle and then it would just, you know, and those
Yeah.
are games where you're like close to winning and then suddenly it's just like, nope, lost all that XP. So I feel like Ubisoft definitely needs to do some work on that to make sure that that's stable, because in a game like that, that's what you want. You want it to be, you don't want to be losing all the progress that you made in a match.
But yeah, I feel like the single player is, or not the single player. The single player may not be worth it. I mean, it's nice that it's there, I guess, but it is kind of lame. But the multiplayer is definitely worth it.
Okay.
The multiplayer is more than worth it, in my opinion.
I like it quite a bit.
I hope that they continue updating it. I would like to see them, like, maybe, you know, I don't care if they, because I think they have a season pass where you get other stuff. I don't know if it's going to be more characters or just more maps, but you know.
That is one thing, though, about the multiplayer that I will say is that they don't have a lot of maps. You end up playing on the same maps over and over and over again, and that can be a little bit of a bummer considering how basic. It's funny because the maps are detailed and interesting, and I feel like the game also looks really good. It's very
well. I think the
brutal
maps
and-
are interesting because, I mean, I think there's like 5 or 6 maps in total, maybe more. But each of the maps have different like biomes. Like this is the rainy one. This is the sunny one. This is the nighttime one.
Right.
You know, where it's the same map but different things. But I also think it's really cool that depending on which faction is controlling that area that map is in when you're going into the multiplayer, will also have aesthetics of that faction.
Okay.
In it, so that if then it gets taken over by another faction, then suddenly all those aesthetics change to that other faction as well,
Yeah.
like banners and stuff.
I wish that they had a little bit more. I mean, like some of the ones that we played, you know, like there's always going to be some battering ram over here battering down a door. I kind of wish that they would change some of that stuff up a little bit. But I don't know. It's not a bad game. It's not the best game I've ever played, but I feel like it's worth checking out. I don't feel like I can just be like, oh, man, you got to play this. But I feel like I can say, if you're interested, I feel like it's worth playing because I had fun. I genuinely had fun with it.
This is also one of those weird games where I feel weird saying this because I feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but I feel like, man, the sequel's going to be so good. Because they've got the basics that they need right now.
Oh, yeah.
So now if they go, okay, what can we add to it? How can we? How does that change it up? How do we rebalance it? And then, hey, now we have time to actually make a story that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, if we get an Assassin's Creed 2 / Watch Dogs 2 in For Honor 2, I'll be perfectly happy with that. All right, well, with enough of that, let's go on to some emails. Our first email this week comes from The Unknown Ronin, who says, Dear Rage Select, are there any aspects or mechanics that you enjoy in a video game but still wish could be better in that game? For example, I'm a huge fan of the settlement building mechanic in Fallout 4. However, I'll admit that it could use a lot of work. It especially would have been nice if you could make a room template similar to what you could do in the Sims games. Anyway, glad to see Puppet Intros are back on the site. I hope you're all doing well, except for John Sitton. I hope he's doing awesome.
I am.
Sincerely, The Unknown Ronin. Do you know this person?
No, I have no idea who that is. Actually, I probably do. I sounds familiar.
Okay, fair enough. So mechanics that were good in a game, but you'd like to tweak them a little bit if you could. It's a difficult question.
Ooh, that is a difficult one.
Let's see here. I do feel like the settlement building in Fallout 4. Like I've looked at people online who have gotten into that, and boy, I could just not give less of a shit about building a settlement in Fallout 4. I just take the Red Rocket gas station and fucking put, just shove everything that I need into that garage. Like every time I play Fallout 4, the Red Rocket gas station is like it's got crops in it, it's got everything, because I'm just like, fuck you, I don't want to build a house. Fuck houses. Put a bunch of bedrolls on the ground. You guys can sleep outside like animals. Fucking dirtbag settlers.
Yeah, and Mama, whatever your name is, you get to sit on the house.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't go back to the old neighborhood ever in Fallout 4. Fucking Cogsworth or whatever is over there, and I've I've just got this gas station that I built into like the ultimate gas station. Whereas that was why I felt so bad when one of their DLCs was that like, oh look, we're giving you all these like machine parts to make your own like sorting machines. I'm like, what are you doing? Fuck you, Bethesda. Give me different super mutants that I could shoot in the face. I could give less of a shit about automating the armor sorting of when I come back with too much loot in my inventory. Like, you're literally giving me ways to solve a problem with this game with dumb Rube Goldberg inventions that I'm going to spend 6 hours trying to put together to sort correctly.
But yeah, I'm trying to think what mechanics from games do I wish that I like, but I wish they were implemented a little bit better. I
can say that I wish that I know that a lot of people wish this, not to fall back to a common Jeff trope, but
does that have to do with Dark Souls?
No, but close. Summoning and getting invaded in Bloodborne was not very well thought out. Okay. And due to that, they actually lost quite a bit. They didn't have much of a PvP scene because it was really hard to get PvP because it wasn't like Souls where if you were human, you could be invaded. Or in Dark Souls 2, you could just be invaded whenever. It was like you had to have the bell ring in order to get invaded. Also, because of that, there was never any way for you to tell, like, if there were other people in the... Like, when you wanted to summon other people to help you beat a boss, like in Dark Souls, you got the things on the ground, right? But in Bloodborne, you just had to ring the bell and just fucking hope that there was somebody out there that had rung their bell. And I wish there had been more indication of that because it made co-oping a little bit more difficult.
Actually, I got an answer.
Okay.
Brutal Legend.
Okay.
The RTS components.
Okay.
Because I actually liked the idea of being a character who is also the commander of an RTS, and you're basically saying, "Hey, go do these people go do this, you go do this," and control but also being able to go down into the fray and attack at the same time. I just felt like they need a little bit more polish on doing it.
Okay.
I don't know how they could have polished it a little bit more, but I felt like it was a little clunky, and I think that's the thing that turned a lot of people off, is that they weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people with that game were like, I'm gonna do this, hack and slash third person
open world
metal rock and roll game.
Right.
And then what the fuck is this RTS shit doing here? And then but I also feel like it was a little clunky.
Okay.
So that it was probably the best they could have done with it, but I feel like there was probably some improvements that could have been made to that to make it a little bit smoother, to make it a little bit more I don't know, easier to control.
Okay.
But I liked it. I liked that where you're a central character that is controlling the battlefield and then can in an RTS-like fashion.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you can go down and do attacks as well.
I feel like other games have done that and have done it better, and I feel like most of it comes in... I feel like the problem that I remember having with Brutal Legend was that I felt like they were too slavish to keeping you with Eddie.
Yeah.
That there should have been a button for control that would have zoomed out and let you go, you guys go over here, you guys go over here, you guys go over here, instead of having to do that management from the ground, especially when you're right in the middle of a battle. It's harder to get an idea of what the fuck is going on over here, what the fuck is going on over here,
That's why Eddie sprouts wings and flies up into the air, man.
Yeah, I know. It's just, it should have been easier just to be like, boop, go here.
I know,
go here,
but
go
I'm
here.
just saying, I like the idea behind it. I haven't seen it in too many other games. I know that there are games that have tried to do you can take control of the characters on the field in addition to playing it like an RTS.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen a lot of those games. A lot of those games were in early access and they didn't really work all that well.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen an actual major game do that.
Okay. I'm trying to think
from
of
from an actual game publisher.
I'm trying to think of other games that have things that I like, but I wish that they could have been a little bit better. It's such a hard question because
it is.
I like a lot of games, and I've over the years have come to a place where I feel like I try to take games based on what they give me instead of I try really hard not to, or I don't know, I try really hard not to judge games based on what I wish they were doing and try to judge the game based on what it is doing, if you go through the podcast or the dojos, you could probably find a place where I'm totally bitching about a thing that I wish that a game was doing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I feel like it's hard. I don't know. That's kind of a fool's errand, right? Because just about every game that you look at, you go...
has something that could be done better.
Yeah, so if you kind of get into a mindset where that's what you're looking at, then I feel like you're going to stop... Or it could really hamper your enjoyment for things because you're constantly going to be like, oh, I could have done that better, kind of in retrospect.
But yeah, no, I'm just saying that's a function that I actually really like, that aspect of the game. I do wish it had been implemented a little bit better, though.
Fair enough. Yeah. Let's see. Next up, this is from, I'm going to say Chase. Chase says, hello, Jeff and John. I'm going to try to keep it short, given the new format, which I'm a fan of. Love everything you've been doing with the channel recently. So I'll get to my question. Is there a game series, whether you love it or not, that you wish took a different direction? For example, I love the Resident Evil series, but there's no denying that it definitely went downhill until now. So I thought about it and realized the series could actually be cooler if they made it a big anthology series. First games could be zombies, 2 could be werewolves, 3 could be Cthulhu mythos, etc., etc. As always, love you guys and the site. Keep on spreading the good word of the Elder Dongs. P.S. Is Loretta still single? And that's from Chase. I don't know, Loretta. I had to block her on my phone. She was texting me constantly about horsey sauce, and I told her I don't have any horsey sauce, and she was like, so I just had to hit the block button, had to swipe the other direction. I don't even know which direction is the bad direction anymore.
Yeah.
Is it left?
I don't know.
Is it right?
Probably.
Which one is bad?
I don't know.
So, okay, a game franchise, game series, whether you love it or not, that you wish took a different direction. Oh, hell
there are
yes.
a lot.
Plenty. I'm going to go, because my mind is on the things that we've been talking about, with one of my biggest ones, fucking Assassin's Creed. I wish that they would have done some different stuff with Assassin's Creed. I would definitely have like a modern day Assassin's Creed. I definitely wish that Assassin's Creed would get out of the time periods where there aren't guns, where it would be like, I don't know, like what was that one section in Unity where you're in World War II, I guess?
Yeah.
Or, but like, I feel like you don't have to have every Assassin's Creed game doesn't have to be set in a place where it's just knives. I mean, for fuck's sake, make the knife cuff have a gun in it. It's already had a gun in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's already had a gun in it.
Right, but bring that shit up to modern day, or put it in the
Assassin's Creed 3.
Put it in the future. Put it in the goddamn future where like he's got a laser shield, right, and that people can't hit him with the darts that they shoot. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, that franchise I feel like has been just fucking rotating in smaller and smaller circles around this one concept that they need to break out of. Give me a fucking rhythm game. I don't know. You know what? You know the best Assassin's Creed game I've played in years is fucking Hitman.
Okay.
Because that was all about assassination, and it was all about being sneaky and stealthy and like these big areas, and it wasn't about killing hundreds of guards because I got seen. Yeah.
I feel like Uncharted does.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny because for a long time I would have said Devil May Cry, but then they did, and people hated it, even though it was actually good. But we'll not dwell on that too long.
There you go, folks. Hey, we got another chance to put in a dig at Devil May or DMC.
I loved DMC Devil May Cry.
Oh, I know.
I think people who hated that game and didn't give it a chance, are really missing out. But I felt that franchise was getting a little bit stale. So I welcomed the change in pace.
Yeah, I do. I feel like it's not even a thing anymore. And this is like, now that I fully think about this in my head, I realize that it already was kind of doing that. But everything post Silent Hill 3 was kind of like, and I feel like one of the reasons that people liked the PT so much was because it did represent something very different, or it at least seemed to represent something very different. I don't know. I've got friends that are fans of Silent Hill, and like some people, I never really played 1 or 3 that have this other story about like the fucking we're trying to raise the elder gods or whatever.
Yeah.
But I thought Silent Hill 2 was really an interesting game of just, if you were to make Silent Hill into a thing, and I guess it's supposed to still be that, but what was that one? It was like Downfall, where the guy comes home from prison and the Silent Hill's happening. But like they never really went into the psychology. I remember when we were doing the review for that back at Spill, and I'm just like, how are you going to have a guy that was in prison and he's sent into Silent Hill and there's no like prison rape craziness going on? I mean, like Silent Hill, like as a manifestation of your own personal hell demons, and you've been in prison, it seems like the perfect solution to do something.
Prison rape seems like the perfect solution.
something horrible that Silent Hill can present to a person who has been incarcerated? Yes, I'm going to say yes. See, now you have your snippet for when I run for Congress. So we're all running for Congress. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like just about any game that's gotten past part 4 could probably use a new direction. I mean, as much as Mass Effect Andromeda looks good, I know I've been on record before as saying it does still look like more Mass Effect. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Mass Effect the flight sim, or Mass Effect the fucking covert ops thing. Or, hey, what about a Mass Effect open world game that all takes place on the same planet, right? We've had 3 Mass Effect games that take place on different planets. Maybe instead of that, maybe you make a big old fucking GTA style planet that's just full of shit, and instead of having it be like, that would actually be a really interesting direction for Mass Effect to go, is instead of a universe destroying threat, you're talking about a threat to a specific planet, and that you and your little Mass Effect team, instead of your ship base, you've got a base, and you've got your people, and you've got different towns, and do that, make Mass Effect into like an open world, flying around, driving dune buggies, but all on the same planet game. Why not? I mean, could be worse. No?
I mean, it kind of defeats the idea of the game, but yeah, I guess.
How so?
Well, the whole thing is the Mass Effect is talking about the mass relays and being out in space. I mean, that's kind of...
Sure.
And traveling between planets. That is the core of the game.
But here's a question for you. If everything from Mass Effect 3, like, I don't know at this point that going to different planets, is there a huge difference outside of what the difference is in your brain, like from a real sterile point of view, between going from this planet to go into a small arena, or going from like this side of the planet to this side of the planet?
No, I get what you're saying.
I get
what you're saying. It's just the part of the appeal of Mass Effect is the grand spectacle, the space opera.
But it's not. You're just fucking playing Pac-Man with Reapers. you're not actually going. You can't go to every planet. It's just like you're going to specific planets that have, and you can have a planet that has like 65 different biomes on it. That's got
Yeah. No, I get you.
But I don't know. Mario, I could see Mario breaking out of fucking Mario.
Really?
Yeah.
Mario is going to be the one you bring up?
Yeah.
When there's Mario Tennis, Mario All-Stars, Mario Soccer, Mario Paint, fucking Luigi's Mansion, fucking the franchise that has more fucking spin-offs and different takes than any other game franchise in the history of anything?
Yep. Yeah. Because they're all the same fucking flavor. They're all Mario. First off, I don't give a fuck about tennis or soccer or party or All-Stars or any of the other bullshit or Paint. Fuck Mario Paint. All right? I'm going to be the first person to say this. Paint on my computer is better than Mario Paint. What? It's got fucking Yoshi noises and a fucking swatting a fly minigame? Swatting a fly is a chore. It's not a game. It wasn't even a good game. It was a bad game. What the fuck are you talking about? And next, I'm going to talk about how Pilot Wing sucks too. What are you talking about? You just have nostalgia for it. It was a bad game. It was a crappy game.
Pilot Wing 64 was pretty good.
I'm talking about main Mario, and I feel like they need to, and maybe, I don't know. I want to see them go in a radically different direction, because the directions they've been going have been either, there's 2 types of Mario games. There's either 2D side-scroller or there's 3D platformer. Like, let's do something else. I don't know. Let's try something else.
I don't know. Let's give him a gun.
Yeah, give Mario a gun. Fuck it. Put him in Utopian future. Put him on
Work for Sonic.
Put him on the Normandy with Shepard, man. Like, have him be picked up. They could go do that thing. I don't know. I would say Castlevania, but they tried to do something different with Castlevania.
Well, the first one was good. The second one of that was not.
But I feel like you could.
But also, the first one wasn't originally a Castlevania game.
But you could. I mean, can't you make a Castlevania in modern day? Like, couldn't that work as like?
Wasn't that the second one?
Yeah, but it was like, but that was wrapped up in that whole like fucking your Dracula shit. Like make it like a like the Last Witch Hunter, but good. Like, oh, I'm the latest Belmont.
That movie was good. Last Witch Hunter with Vin Diesel. I liked that movie.
That movie was okay.
I liked that movie.
Well, I'm not saying that you're not allowed to like it. I'm just saying that it was okay. John's he's crossed his arms. He's very like, well, harumph on you,
I said
sir.
harumph for you. Have a good day. I say good day, sir.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I could see that kind of thing of. It's funny because I was just watching Doctor Strange again.
Yeah,
and I feel like
still haven't seen that.
That would be interesting if you had a Belmont in the modern day who's like kind of like an underworld thing, right? Where it's like, oh, there's a war with vampires that's been going on, and the Belmont clan for thousands of years has been working behind the scenes to make sure that blah 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 blah.
I've heard they're making a new Van Helsing movie.
I didn't hate that first Van Helsing movie. It's dumb as
apparently
rocks.
a completely reboot of the Van Helsing to take place in their newly rebooted movie monster universe.
Oh, yeah. That's some bullshit.
So.
All right, one more question, then we'll get out of here. Evan writes in and says, hello, Jeff and John. I am currently working retail and find it is turning me into a more negative person overall, which I don't really enjoy. I know that Jeff has worked retail in the past. As mentioned, he learned to hate people from working in that environment. Are there any tips that you know to stop a retail job from turning a person sour? Thanks for your hours of entertainment. Your loyal patron, Evan.
Do you got any tips?
Well, there's booze. There's also like beer and wine. So now I don't know. I mean, I guess that, like, did he just say, like, I'm currently working in retail and find that's turning me into a negative person? I feel like he's asking me this. He's like, dear Jeff, I'm becoming a negative person. How did you stop from becoming a negative person?
Oh no.
I'm like,
no.
Oh, Evan, baby, I'm sorry, but I am a negative person.
Here's the thing. And I think for me, like, I don't work retail.
Yeah.
I mean, I work jobs where I do, deal with customers. But it's over the phone.
Yeah.
So I don't ever deal with people in person. So there is a level of, while yes, I do get that elements of I fucking hate this person, or sometimes I just hate my job and I get really negative. But, I also, I don't deal with people face to face. So I don't know if it would be worse off if I did.
Yeah, it is. Trust me.
Well, no, if I would be worse off if I did. Not saying it's not worse off. I'm saying that I'm just, my reaction to it.
Sure.
But I mean, I just, when I leave work, I leave work. I don't think about those people. I go hang out with friends, go hang out with my girlfriend or fiance, my dog. I find the things that do make me happy and do make me a positive thing, and I focus on those outside of work. And then sometimes I come over here and listen to Jeff bitch about things. So, and then go, man, at least I'm not Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's the answer, Evan, is that you can, when you're having a hard day, you can close your eyes, you could say, at least I'm not Jeff. Then I'd have to talk about Dark Souls all the time. What a horrible existence that must be.
I'm joking, Jeff. Your life is not that bad, and I don't ever think that.
No, that's fine. It's fine, John. I'm not sad.
I totally think that.
I don't know. The only thing I can say, Evan, is that when I did work retail, I mean, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a brief parable here, Evan. No job. I've had phone support jobs. I've had crappy retail jobs. I've had jobs with bad bosses. I've had jobs with unreasonable deadlines. No job.
A lot of those are Rage Select.
No job in the world has had more of an emotional impact on me than what I'm doing right now. No, there would be retail where I would get upset at a person, but then they would leave, and then they're out of my life, right? Like even if the same person came back over and over again, my coworkers and I would be like, fuck it, this is fucking Tommy's here. Who wants to deal with this asshole today, right? But when people yelled at me on the phone when I worked in technical support, I would finish out my day. I would log out of my phone. I'd go home and I'd be like, hey, man, this guy yelled at me. And everybody would be like, boo, fuck that guy. And I'd be like, all right, let's go get some pizza. But
sounds about accurate, yes.
Yeah. But I feel like, I don't know, fucking retail is a cakewalk compared to the internet, the goddamn internet. I was talking to somebody last night about how we're at 5.5 years that I've been doing this between Spill and Rage Select, and the occasional mean comment still just hurts my feelings real bad. So I don't know. As far as
if you told me, I'd stop making them.
Dude, you
never tell me that they hurt your feelings.
You think I don't know that every commenter on Rage Select is just John's sock puppet accounts? I don't know how you have time to do this. But yeah, I don't know, Evan. Drink, complain to people, start a blog, post on Imager, meditate. I mean, all the normal stuff. I don't feel like it never stayed with me. That's the answer that I have, is that
find something that makes you happy that's outside of work, whether it be video games, whether it be comic books, whether it be movies, whether it be hanging out with very specific friends, or going, seeing that special person in your life, or having a dog, or any of those things, or all those things. And when you leave work, maybe have someone that you can vent at or to, but not
just put it on Facebook,
or just something you can vent. But for the most part, try to just focus on the positive stuff in your life outside of work.
I tell you what, I also had a game. It doesn't work for everybody, but I had a little game that I used to play that was like, all right, so here's the game. It's got one rule: if I get mad, they win, and if they get mad, I win. And so, no, actually, fuck the second part. It's just if a person manages to make me mad enough to lose my cool / get shitty with them, then they win. And the only way, that was like a little game that I used to play with myself. And so that was just like, well, I'm not going to let them make me mad. Like I may be mad on the inside, but I'm never going to express that outwardly. Also, I'm a fucking fake ass customer service robot when I talk to people at a regular job. I'm just like, hi, welcome to Schlotsky's. What sort of sandwich would you like today? What a beautiful day it is for a sandwich here at Schlotsky's. All right. You want bacon on that? 50%, 50 cents extra, blah, blah, blah. Actually, nobody out there knows what Schlotsky's is, right? Because it's like a local Austin sandwich chain.
No, I mean, it might be Texas, but I mean, I've had Schlotsky's in Houston. And
okay, fair enough. Well, in any case, on that sandwichy note, let's wrap this one up. We're edging back up towards 2 hours. We started that crisp 1 hour. This one's going to be about an hour and 15 minutes. I feel like we're just moving back up the time scale until eventually it happens. Yep, mail@rageslide.com is the email address, and we will talk to you next week.
Later.